content creators. Karen hadn't survived the HOA Facebook group mutiny of 2017 to be outsmarted by some new age influencer with a drone and a smug attitude. She needed answers, so she sent Liberty across the street with a tiny camera hidden in her sweater. It was a cheap spy toy she'd bought during a short-lived phase of believing her neighbor across the alley was stealing her newspaper. The footage was mostly floor-level and filled with loud sniffing, but she swore she saw Max's laptop open with folders labeled things like Suburbageddon and Karen Gold 4K. That last one made her scream into a couch pillow for 10 solid seconds. She couldn't be sure, but something told her Max was collecting material for something big. And if he was documenting her, she'd make damn sure she documented him first. The next day, she went full surveillance mode. She installed motion sensors by her mailbox. She put a Ring camera on her window, even though it technically wasn't allowed under Oak Hollow's aesthetic standards. She set up a trail cam in her front garden under the guise of tracking raccoons. The only thing she caught that week was Zoe stealing her newspaper and replacing it with a printed meme of Karen holding a Fun Zone sign photoshopped onto the moon. She left it there for exactly 3 minutes before storming out in her robe and tearing it up. But Max didn't seem fazed. He kept filming. He greeted neighbors. He hosted a backyard bonfire with acoustic guitar music and marshmallows, which Karen promptly reported to the HOA via email for exceeding allowable evening decibel limits. The complaint was ignored. Instead, Gerald forwarded her an email with the subject line "Let It Go" and an attached YouTube link to the Frozen soundtrack. Then came the annual Oak Hollow Neighborhood Barbecue, the one day each year when grudges were temporarily set aside in favor of overcooked burgers and competitive potato salad. Karen had always been the self-appointed organizer, but this year, the board had stripped her of the role and given it to Max. She found out via flyer taped to her own front door. She showed up anyway, dressed in red, white, and blue from head to toe, with a sash reading Neighborhood Advocate. Karen marched into the event like a homecoming queen with a vendetta. She brought gluten-free hot dogs no one asked for and copies of her revised summer guidelines stapled to paper plates. But something was different this time. People didn't smile. They didn't scurry to avoid her gaze. Instead, they laughed, not at her face, but at their phones. Someone had made Karen stickers, actual stickers. One showed her screaming in front of her broken car window. Another had her face photoshopped onto the Statue of Liberty holding a clipboard instead of a torch. Children wore them on their shirts like badges of honor. That's when it happened. Max took the mic. He stood on the small stage near the gazebo, wearing a Hawaiian shirt and holding his phone in one hand. He cleared his throat and smiled in that way that made Karen's blood pressure spike. Then, with a simple click, a screen behind him lit up. It was her. Footage played, Karen yelling at a recycling bin, Karen screaming at the hydrant, Karen muttering to Liberty about people who don't trim their hedges with intent. It was edited masterfully. Quick cuts, dramatic music, slow-motion eye rolls. The crowd howled with laughter. Kids were crying from laughing too hard. Even Gerald nearly fell out of his folding chair. Karen stood frozen. Her mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. She looked like a fish in business casual. The crowd only got louder, drowning out her shout. Her arms flailed as she demanded the video stop, but Max turned to her, still smiling, and said calmly, "Don't worry. This is just the trailer." The screen cut to black with the words, "Suburbageddon Episode 1, Karen of Hollow, coming soon." She ran home in a blur of polyester and humiliation, Liberty tucked under one arm, the sound of laughter echoing behind her like a victory chant. She slammed the door and locked it, then paced her living room, unsure whether to cry or organize her garage out of spite. This wasn't just sabotage. This was war. The following days were quiet. Too quiet. The neighborhood ignored her. Children pointed at her from across the street and whispered. One even asked if she was the lady who yells at grass. She stopped going outside unless absolutely necessary, sending Liberty out with little notes tied to her collar instead. Her paranoia consumed her. Max was up to something bigger. If the trailer was that polished, what else did he have? Then, one night, while eating dry cereal over the sink, she found a DVD slipped under her door in a red case labeled Rough Cut. She popped it into her ancient player and sat back. It was her. For an entire 30-minute episode. And it was only the beginning. Karen Millstone didn't open the blinds for 3 days, Not because of the sun, which she claimed was too aggressive in March, or because of allergies, which she insisted were triggered by morally ambiguous grass. No. This time, it was shame. Deep, echoing, slow-boiling shame. She had become a public spectacle, a neighborhood cautionary tale, a punchline. Not even Liberty wanted to be near her. The little Pomeranian sulked near the back door like she was asking to be rehomed. The trailer for Max's documentary had spread well beyond Oak Hollow. Now, a local morning show picked it up under a segment titled The HOA Queen Nobody Asked For, and a podcast did a full 30-minute roast complete with fake Karen voicemails and someone doing impressions of her yelling at clouds. Inside her house, Karen had created her own bunker of denial. She muted her phone, disconnected the internet, and covered every reflective surface because she couldn't stand to accidentally see herself. The one time she peeked into her bathroom mirror, she gasped and muttered, "You used to be someone." She slept on the couch, drank lukewarm